Connected to iPhone.
Connect to the fucking.
Disconnected.
You stupid. Okay, you stupid ass fucking Bluetooth, yo.
Connected to iPhone.
Yes. Okay. Got that shit connected. That shit respected. Don't get neglected. Good morning. Oh yeah. We get it poppin'. In the studio. Ain't no stopping. Oh, boy, ain't nothing like that agua. This is some high quality H2O. That shit tastes like water. I ain't even lying to you. It tastes just like water. In the studio, get it poppin'. In the studio, woo. We get it poppin'. Woo. In the studio, hey, yo, Eric. What up? Top of the morning to you. This bong's for you. Love that water. drink that water, smoke through the water, drink that water, smoke through the water, drink that water like cause I blow them bubbles. That water cleaning it out. My smoke so good, it never make me cough. I like the taste of that good bud, that natural herb coming from that bubbler. Yeah, man, that's my word, cause no chemicals or nothing. No blunts, I ain't stunting. No paper getting rolled up. Bongs, I'm just packing. Oh, now I'm relaxing. Now I'm just laughing, cause I do got a doobie, and I do that so groovy, cause I'm smoking in the morning. Yeah, that's my passion. Wake and bake, then I have to grab my paint, cause I gotta paint this portrait. Man, it looks so amazing that I ain't phasing in. Yo, I'm just blazing in. Ooh, like yeah. In the studio chillin'. About to make me a killin'. Man, I'm trying to be your hero, but you about to make me a villain. I don't give a fuck, cause I do it for my children. Got a legacy to leave, man. I gotta water these seeds so they grow real strong, sprout out like some trees, man. Now I got a forest of my family. I made a name, came after me. I started a whole fucking village, and they gonna do it just like me. That's building wealth and knowledge, education and profits. No, I'm not a prophet, I just speak it logic, trying to give you all this knowledge. So it's art and education. Yeah, early in the morning, got that flame and I be blazing. Got that flame and I be blazing. Got that flame and I be blazing. Cause it's art and education. Art and education. Art and education. That smoke be lasting, that smoke be lingering. Yeah, it's mingling. Ooh, my thoughts is tingling. Ooh, my ears start ringing when niggas calling my name and singing like Trap House. Ooh, Trap. Yo, with them freestyles in the morning, man. You know, it's just, that's how I get my day started, man. I just come in and just say some shit. It don't hardly be nobody but me and Boozy most of the time, any damn way.
What's driving our debt is
I love this beat, yo. I know y'all been hearing this beat a lot, cause
Security.
Honestly, it's the last good beat that I added to the list. So when I start off my beat list, that's number one. That's the last one I put on there, cause that shit just be so, it's just so melodic, man. You can just ride on that shit, yo. Boom, tss, tss, boom, tss, tss, boom. Yo, that beat is good. Especially the freestyle too. I can imagine if I sat down and like wrote something to that shit, bruh. That beat just like, I love that shit. And that's why I haven't added another beat yet, because I can't find one to top that one. Like my beat list grows and grows. It's like 116 beats, but that was the last beat. And now every morning I'll be happy to play that shit. Like, ooh, just start off from the top. Doom, 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 boom, 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 doom, doom, doom. Yo, I posted this other chick. I'm gonna show y'all this video I posted on my Facebook page. My Facebook page is basically full of art and education as well. Sometimes I will post funny stuff. Sometimes I will post like music or things like that. But normally my Facebook is just a tool to educate people who follow me on Facebook, yo. Try to hip you and put you up on something that you might not know about. So I did post this one music video yesterday, yo. It's this chick, and I followed her for about a year or so, because I saw another video of her doing the exact same fucking thing, and she does this shit live on the spot. I know she rehearses it first and gets it down pat so that she can do it live on the spot, but when she does it, it's like, that bitch just did that shit. Like, what the fuck? And that shit is amazing, yo. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go to that shit now. Yo, this chick is so fucking hot, son. Facebook. Oh, look at my profile picture. Ooh, from that was 2 years ago. I might have to share that picture because I was looking fucking G as fuck right there, bro. Had the tall ass beer, the fat ass cigar, you know what I'm saying? On a sunny ass day. Man, my Facebook. Who in the fuck got puppies in the swing? And them little fucking, what them is, some Rottweilers? The motherfuckers is really like chilling in the goddamn hammock. Anyway, let me go to my shit. I just want to show y'all this real quick. Alright, this is us right here live. You can't see it, but that's the post for this live stream. So I gotta like that. Yo, my man Chris liked it this morning. Chris might be watching. Hey, good morning, Chris. Alright, so this girl right here, if y'all don't know who she is, yo, Tosh.
My name's Tosh Sultana, and
yo, Tosh Sultana, yo,
I'm on tour at the moment.
Watch how she does this. We're gonna watch this whole video real quick, but watch how she does it.
I'm on tour at the moment, but I had a day off, so I thought I would come in.
Yeah, she's on tour, but and this is how grassroots, like how down to earth, how fucking soulful of a musician, how much passion she really got for music. Like, she's on tour. She does big ass tours and sell out fucking tours, bro. Like, she sells out her shows. Germany, she does a lot of shit overseas in the UK. She's been to America a couple times, but she does a lot of her shit overseas. But still, it's like she'll do a whole fucking tour date and then go on a fucking street corner and be a fucking street musician like day one, like grassroots day one shit, like with nobody around, no security, no backup, nobody but her and her fucking setup. Like, I like real ass motherfuckers who don't ever forget that street shit. Like, you came from somewhere, bro. You weren't born in a studio making a hit track and getting a concert tour the next day. You came from somewhere, so she'll go right back to this fucking street performance.
So I'm gonna play you something new.
She'll go right back to the street performer like it ain't nothing, yo. Now she has a fucking, she has a track recorder right there with her, so she's recording these different layers of the track. So she does the chord, then she does the bass line, then she does the high chord, and like she's recording that shit live on that mic, and she just has it. She's tapping her foot to stop and start on each fucking track. So she'll lay one track, lay the next track on top of that shit, until she get the fucking music together, yo, and then just sing over that shit, yo. This bitch is fucking amazing.
And I'm on rap moment, but I had a day off. So
Yo, watch how she just stacked this shit so fucking fast. How she just stacked the hell out of that shit, yo.
I'm gonna play you something new. It's called Brain Flower.
Brain Flower. She just stacked this shit like so fucking quick. Got your mid chords. Yo, them shits is crazy, right? How she's fucking stacking and looping it, bro. just quick as shit, yo. She just threw that bass line down like it wasn't fucking nothing. And having fun, yo. She just having fucking fun, yo. Look how she's doing that shit. Yo, she is hot though. This chick is hot, yo. She's got this shit, yo. She got it, yo. Yo. Okay. Hey, you guys are welcome. Everybody is welcome. You don't have to thank me, you know what I'm saying? Tosh Salanta is her name. You can look her up, you can follow her, you can try to get some of her music, but you're welcome for that. Okay, like, and I wish somebody put me on her, but it was just a random, like some random chance I came across one of her fucking videos. Matter of fact, I want to see that first one. It was a street performance, like she was just, I think she was in the U.S. Yo, this is the first shit I ever seen from her, yo. This shit right here. At first I thought this was a fucking dude, yo. I swear I thought she was a dude. Whoever taught her this shit, I know they proud as fuck, yo. Whoever showed her how to do this stuff, man, they gotta be a proud ass fucking teacher, yo. She's dope as fuck, yo. And I don't know. I don't normally go for music like that, but she's tight as shit, yo. Tosh. I said I had to post her video on my Facebook page. Like I said, I don't normally post like just random music and shit like that, but how she puts her shit together on the street corner like that, you gotta show respect for that shit. Like, yo, you just did that shit, yo. It just started beatboxing. like really, you got 3-4 guitar riffs going. You got a fucking 2 different beatbox going. Then you still playing another guitar on top of that and singing, and the shit sound good. It's like, yo, okay, you got that. you got that. Okay. Hey. All right. We got some emails. Ooh. I always be looking at an email like, commission? Ah. No commission. Shit. Some random shit. All right, so what were we doing? Oh, yeah. We were working on this painting. So, guys, I'm your host, Black Bob Ross. Today we're going to work on another fine installment of the Reader series. Here, featured in this piece, we have a fantastic piece of literature written by our beloved Dr. Amos Nelson Wilson, entitled Black on Black Violence, The Psychodynamics of Black Self-Annihilation in Service of White Domination. If you have not read this book, I would advise everyone to get their hands on a copy and read it and get familiar with the information that it holds. It's basically changed the way I see the world. No, literally. I'm dead ass fucking serious, bro. This is probably the most eye-opening book I've ever read in my life. Literally. It's really hard to read, though. Like, it really is. But you gotta force yourself to read it. And because it's the concepts are not hard to understand, but the language he uses is like, Jesus Christ, dude. He speaks like a college professor for the entire book. Like, he doesn't use any layman terms. And so it's like, okay. But you can grasp it. It's not, I mean, let's just say it's above a high school reading level. So if you can read above high school level, then you're good. And even if you only read at a high school level, like, it's still, you can still read the book. I dropped out of high school and I still read the book. But it's like, it's not like anything you've ever fucking read because you wanted to. It may be something you've read. It may be similar to something you've read because you've had to for a grade or a class or a course study or something like that. But this isn't a piece of literature that's forced upon anybody in any kind of educational setting. So the only way you would be able to read this book is by choice. And reading this book by choice, you're picking a pretty hard book to read. I'll just say that. But it's still, once again, it's probably my favorite book. It's the best book I've ever read. The best piece of nonfiction. I'll put it like that, because we categorize so many things. It's science fiction, fantasy, nonfiction. So, historical, political. There's so many different ways to categorize literature or writing, but if you want to put it as nonfiction, it's the best piece of nonfiction I've ever read. Do you guys hear that? Oh shit. I don't think I've ever seen their cat outside, but their cat is outside, and this cat is fucking out there freaking out. This cat is scared as fuck, yeah. Your cat don't be outside. That's not no outside cat, yeah. I don't know how the cat got out, and the owners aren't there. That cat is just over there crying. Meow, meow, meow. Like, let me in. Like, how the fuck did you get outside, cat? That's what the fuck you get for being nosy, trying to go somewhere. If I had a BB gun, which I do, that's just me. Wait, Boozy. Boozy. Damn, Boozy. Hey, you think you just gonna walk into a bookstore and find this shit? Yeah, can I get Dr. Amos? Bro, they don't sell this shit at no damn Barnes and Nobles, man. If you walk into your local Barnes and Nobles and they got this shit on tap, boy, bruh, I'll truly be shocked. I would be shocked. I would have to call the management of that Barnes and Nobles and congratulate them on their selection of books they keep on hand. Cause you're not gonna find this shit on no shelf. No way. Books A Million, Barnes and Nobles, What's the other ones? Burries. Like, nah, you just no. You gotta order this shit offline, or you gotta find you Afrocentric black-owned bookstore that specializes in black authors. What section? What section would I find that under in if I go to Barnes and Nobles? None of them. And it's not gonna be there, bro. I can almost guarantee you won't find this shit on no shelf. None of his books. You're not gonna find any of his books on a fucking in a bookstore. You're just not, right? You can read all the Martin Luther King speeches you want. This brother, nigga, please. Nah, we not gonna give you ready access to that shit. And then I was telling somebody about it in Florida, and they said they went to the library to try to find it, and they got one of his books, not this one. They got another one of his books, and you can't check it out. You can only read it in the library. Ain't that some shit? Like, you can't check this book out. There's certain books you can't check out, like encyclopedias and other kind of shit like that. A bunch of their reference books, like some of their bigger law books and stuff like that, they keep on hand. You can't check those out. And you can't, they got one of his books and you couldn't check it out of the library. They think you might go make photocopies of this shit and learn the secrets. Yeah, I don't know. That was weird. When I had heard that shit, I was like, huh? What? Word? They won't let you leave with that shit? Boy, that shit like ammunition. That's like ammunition. That's why they won't let you leave with the encyclopedias. Man, this is too much knowledge. We need to keep this knowledge here for everybody. You can't take all this knowledge away with you now. You can read it while you're here. And you telling me his shit got so much, his shit so deep, you can't leave the building? Damn. Seems like it's worth reading, huh? Wouldn't you say? Seems like it would be worth reading.
Hi kids, I'm Carl and I'm a...
Hi kids, do you like violence? Do you want to see me stick 9-inch nails to each one of my eyelids? Do you want to try acid and get fucked up as my life is?
Time allocation. I think one of the things you spend an awful lot of time thinking about, I know, is artificial intelligence. It's something that you and I have as a shared interest, and it's something that our audience is interested in as well. The question here is, a lot of experts in AI don't share the same level of concern that you do about the dangers of AI.
Fools.
What
Famous last words.
What specifically do you believe that they don't?
Well, the biggest issue I see with so-called AI experts is that they think they know more than they do. And they think they're smarter than they actually are. In general, we are all much smarter than we think we are, but much less smart, dumber than we think we are, by a lot. So this tends to plague smart people. They just can't. They define themselves by their intelligence, and they don't like the idea that a machine could be way smarter than them. So they discount the idea, which is fundamentally flawed. That's the wishful thinking situation. I'm really quite close to, very close to the cutting edge in AI, and it scares the hell out of me. It's capable of vastly more than almost anyone knows, and the rate of improvement is exponential. You can see this in things like AlphaGo, which went from, in the span of maybe 6 to 9 months, it went from being unable to beat even a reasonably good Go player to then beating the European world champion, who was ranked 600, then beating Lee Sedol 4-5, who had been world champion for many years, then beating the current world champion, then beating everyone while playing simultaneously. Then there was
I don't know, bro. I said I went down there. That when they asked me to come down there and sign another piece of paper, but it was just for another background check because I lived in Virginia for a little while. So it's like, oh, we gotta have some dirt on them from somewhere. But like the first background check said, any kind of activity on my record in the last 5 years. I've been living in Pennsylvania for 6 years. So, last 5 years I've been here, haven't been in any kind of trouble at all. So they're like, well, we noticed that you lived in Virginia for a little while. We need you to sign this paper so we can do a background check on your status in Virginia. And so I just went down there and signed that paper because I didn't rape any fucking little kids in Virginia. I'm not some creepy pedophile or anything like that. And so I didn't have a problem with signing some more paperwork, but I think it's good that they're really, really checking into me. That means they're really interested. They just want to make sure I'm legit. I'm not what exactly what they're looking for. Some creepy ass fucking perv who's trying to get around and harm some little kids. Come in, Mr. Nice Guy, and you hear these stories, just like the last story of the babysitter. What state was that? And they said the lady had a daycare outside of it, was running a daycare out of her home, and had like 7 kids in there. Had the kids tied up in a motherfucking car seat. Had like 3 kids tied up in car seats in a closet, and there was all like kinds of fucking sleeping medicine and NyQuil around. Like she had doped these kids up on big ass doses of fucking NyQuil, strapped their ass down to a motherfucking car seat, and had some shit tied around their neck and strapped back so they physically couldn't get up, and put them in a dark closet. And they say they found like 4 kids in the closet, and then another kid was in the master bathroom. And she said that she only had like 5 kids in the house, but then they wound up finding 4 more kids in the house, and these kids have bruises, and they're trying not to, make sure that no people like that get around the kids that they're responsible for, and that I would eventually become responsible for, which is completely understandable. So do as much fucking background check as you want to. You know what I'm saying? I'm here to help the little kiddies. You know what I'm saying? Trap House love the kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, goddamn, we do this shit for the youth. They go in, they start dropping them jewels on them kids. You know what I'm saying? It's like, nah. Then their parents would be like, Bobby came home talking about the system of oppression and that the Federal Reserve Bank isn't really a part of the federal government. And I'm not sure what Mr. Prince is saying, but he told my son that there is no difference in the Republican and Democratic Party. So, I'm going to take my kid out of the program now. So look, kid. You know what I'm saying? Fucking the president's a puppet. Mr. Prince said that the president is a puppet. When you grow up, kids don't pay your taxes. He's corrupting the youth. We dodged the pedophile and got a fucking conspiracy theorist in here around these kids. Look, he's got them painting pictures of 9/11. Is this socially acceptable? I'm not sure. I probably won't even need this dark of a brown. The skin is looking so good to me right now. It really is, bro. This is only 2 layers of paint. It's only 2 layers of paint. But it does need some highlights. I'm gonna just put a little dollop of this dark brown, this Van Dyke, just in case. But I really am going to focus on the midtones and the highlights. Get some of this transparent earth orange and a little bit of this that Mars brown. Yeah. All right, transparent earth orange. I have this. This is mostly gambling paint, but this Mars brown is a very expensive paint. This is Old Holland. This is a $30 tube of paint. Yes, I said that. Like $30 for this little tube of paint. Gambling has some tubes that are like $36-$40, but that's not on an average. Most of the time you get a tube of gambling for like $16 or something like that, but on average you're gonna pay like $27-$30 for this paint for a tube this size. But it's well worth it. This shit is like fucking creamy ass. Oh man, that shit is like butter, son. That shit is, you know what I'm saying, that doodle brown, boy. You ain't got no doodle brown like that, boy. That shit, that's that butter. That butter brown. Mr. Prince. Mr. Prince told us we don't have to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Well, we're not kneeling either. We're not gonna stand for it. Alright, so in the highlights, this Venetian red, I might get a little bit of this pink brown. Ooh, boy, they got all them colors. That's why I like that. That's why I like that gambling, boy. Yes, we got colors like brown, pink. You need one or the other? Nah, we'll start you out right here. And then you can work your way from there. Get some of that brown, pink. Oh man, I seen her areolas. Man, them ships was, them ships was like brown, pink, yo. You know what I'm saying? Nice areolas. You ain't never had them brown, pink areolas, boy? Shit. Alright, let's get into some of these yellows. Ooh. Probably need a little teeny bit of, a little teeny bit of these right here. This is some raw sienna, some gold ochre, and some Indian yellow. I got a little bit of Indian in me. That's why my hair kind of straight. Bitch, your hair ain't straight. Shut the fuck up. I know a goddamn perm when I see a motherfucking perm, you lying ass. Boy, no. I mix with nothing. You mix with nothing. With Europeans, bitch. That's what you mix with. You're not fucking half Cherokee. Stop the lying. Damn it, black people. My great granddaddy was a slave, motherfucker. He was no Navajo, Pathfinder, Blackfoot. Sequoia, shut the fuck up. Stop it. Oh, I got them Bob Ross colors, boy. Some of this Van Dyke brown. Yeah, the yellow ochre. Yeah. You know them Bob Ross colors. Get some of this titanium white here. Do it, Mr. Bob. What was listening to? Let me see.
I don't have a lot of time to tell you if you switch.
I don't have a lot of time to fucking turn the volume down so I don't have to listen to this commercial. Bro. I could have got a new palette for this because half of this shit is messed up from the shirt that I was doing with the reds and things. But I'm gonna work it on there. Like I say, this is gonna be the final layer, more than likely, for the skin tones, because these skin tones just came out so amazing on the second layer. I don't feel like I have to do a lot more to it, and so I just got a little bit of each color on there.
Paints and brushes, paint along with us each show. And if you've been with us before, please allow me to thank you for inviting us back for another series of painting shows. Tell you what, let's start right off today and run all the colors across the screen that you need to paint along with us. While they're doing that, let me show you what I got done up here. Today I'm using an 18 by 24 inch canvas. It's pre-stretched and double primed. And then I've just covered the entire canvas with a very thin coat of liquid white.
So when I tell people my starting price is $400 and my starting size canvas is an 18 by 24 inch, I get that shit from Mr. Bob Ross. Yo, D1. I get that from Bob. Some of that Prussian blue.
Painting shows. Tell you what, let's start right off today and have run all the colors across the screen that you need to paint along with us. While they're doing that, let me show you what I got done up here. Today I'm using an 18 by 24 inch canvas. It's pre-stretched and double primed. And then I've just covered the entire canvas with a very thin coat of liquid white.
That liquid white,
this is a wet on wet painting technique. So liquid white is there only to make the canvas wet. It allows us to actually blend color right on the canvas rather than working ourselves to death. So let's do that. Tell you what, let's start off today with a little 2-inch brush. There we are. We'll take a little touch of phthalo blue. Phthalo blue is a beautiful, beautiful blue color. Just tap a little into the bristles. We don't need a lot. All right, let's go right up in here. Now we'll start just making little X's. Just little crisscross strokes. That easy. That easy. And we'll work all the way across the canvas. And we start at the top and work down. That way the paint is continually mixing with the liquid white that's already on the canvas. And automatically, your sky will get lighter and lighter as you work down toward the horizon. And in a landscape, that's exactly what we're looking for. There. Let the canvas work for you. Allow the colors and the paint, everything to work together to make it easy. This is a painting technique that you can do. There's no big secrets here.
Yeah, wet on wet.
I've never painted, do this every day, and it works for me. All right. I think I'll have some water in this painting today. I love water. It's easy to paint. And we use that same old phthalo blue. Just add a little more to the brush. Now, still water is always level. And I think today, let's have still water. So pull from the outside to in, like so. That's all there is to it. We'll go to the other side, same identical thing. But I suggest you pull from the outside in. If you start here and go across, it leaves a big line. It's very hard to work out.
I'm grabbing one more color. I gotta
pull from the outside
put some orange.
And it leaves a little area in here that's sort of light. If everything works
if
just
I can
right,
get the damn
like
cap off
of lights just streaking right across your water. Sneaky, but it works great. There we go.
Yo, Luke, that's what's up, bro.
Now then, I want to darken the corners of this. I'm going to take a little Prussian blue. Prussian blue is much, much stronger than phthalo blue.
That Prussian,
it's a beautiful blue.
Boy, that's that Prussian right there, boy. That's my favorite shit.
Corners,
that Prussian.
I'm just going to add
I love that shit, yo.
That
shit can be fucking
like that.
Damn near black.
Now,
yo,
painting is
no lie. This is the transition from Prussian blue. Like the headphones, this part right here, that's not black. That's blue right here. And all you do is add a little bit of white, then that shit turns like fucking super light blue. Like all this shit is just Prussian blue. But I mean the transition is so fucking dramatic. Like it can be a really, really super dark blue or a really, really light blue with just a little teeny bit of white, just a little bit. And fuck it, I love that shit. I use Prussian blue more than any other blue. I use that shit more than black. A lot of the times when you see my deep shadows or really dark areas, it's not black. I'll take this Van Dyke brown, because this is brown, and that's the darkest brown. It almost looks black. But if you take some Van Dyke brown and some Prussian blue and mix them together, yo, that shit damn near black, yo. And then you can still blend really dark areas real easy to get back to a skin tone because it's not black. It's brown. Brown and blue. And you can mix that with the red, and now you got purple, and that's a more natural skin tone instead of trying to use black as the shadow and trying to blend your black into your reds. Then you're gonna get like a weird ass ugly mud color, and it doesn't fucking work. It doesn't fucking work. So deep shadows on skin is never black. It's never black. It's always blues or purples or deep browns. Oh shit. Almost knocked the fucking camera over. Yeah, that Prussian blue is fucking amazing. I love that shit, yo. Once I figured out how to use that shit good with the shadows, it works perfect.
Lead the eye toward the center of the painting. There. That's really all there is to it. And we'll put a little in the water too. We don't want it left out. Just down at the bottom and let it work upward. There. Shoot, we're in business already.
Shoot, we're in business already.
We just do a little mountain scene. It's very pretty, very easy to do. All right. Now see, even though we're blending across that little light area still remains in there. Okay, I'll just blend that color till it's nice and smooth, and we're in business. Now comes the most fun part of the whole technique, and that's washing the brush. If you painted with me before, you know this is where I really have a good time. It's cleaning this whole brush. We wash our brush with odorless paint thinner, shake it off, and just beat the devil out of it. That really is the fun part of this whole technique.
So you beat the devil out the brush.
Today, we'll use a little bit of phthalo blue, some alizarin crimson,
that alizarin,
a little bit of black.
That's that classic colors, yo.
Here. And I want to make a dark lavender looking color. Very dark. Very dark.
Just trying to add some of the final little highlights in here.
Much more crimson than blue. Okay, let me wipe the old knife. We'll just wipe the knife on a paper towel. Now it's most important how you load the knife. Cut across the paint and get a little roll that lives right out of the edge of the knife. Okay, let's go up in here. Tell you what, put a little white with that. I'll make a distant mountain first. Little mountain that lives far away. So I've added a little white, and maybe, yeah, right in here. Just decide where you think this little mountain lives in your world, and drop it in. Painting is a very individual thing. We all see nature through different eyes, and that's the way you should paint it. There. All we're looking for is the nice top edge. We could care less what's happening down below. Our brush is good and dry, and we'll grab it because the liquid white's on the canvas. You can literally move color. See there? If you were working on a dry canvas right now, you'd be in Agony City. But because it's wet, it will move.
When it's wet, it'll move.
Will create the illusion of highlights and shadows.
You heard that, right? When it's wet, it'll move, boy. Yo, you gotta listen to these motherfuckers when they tell you that shit.
And mountain's gonna be far away.
You can use all these lessons in different parts of your life, not just only in painting.
Let's go right up in here.
You know what I'm saying? Everybody sees nature
how dark it is
through a different eye.
Don't be afraid of it because it's dark.
And don't be afraid of it because it's dark. You know what I'm saying?
But you
these are life lessons meant to be learned, yo. Don't be afraid of it because it's dark.
Maybe.
You know what I'm saying?
How about one
This is your world.
But it's that easy. And there is no right or wrong here.
It isn't.
The only rule that we have here is that painting should make you happy. You should enjoy it.
That's it.
If it does that, then it's good.
If you enjoy it, it's good.
All right. I get letters from youngsters, some of them in their 90s, that tell me they never believed they could paint. And they've tried this and it's worked for them. That's what makes this all worthwhile. Is to hear stories of success from all over the country. And you can do it. You can do it. There we go. Now, once again, I'm going to pull this. One of the rules if you're painting mountains, always remember, if you can see the entire mountain, It's always more distinct on the top than it is on the bottom. Because we have mist and now we have wonderful pollution. It sort of lays around the bottom of the mountain and it breaks up and diffuses the light so it looks softer. There.
Throw a little bit of sarcasm.
Sometimes, tell you what,
now we have this wonderful pollution.
Sometimes. When I got that color going, it's fun to take and reflect a mountain right into the water. Now we're just looking for a basic little reflection here. We're not too worried about it being exact. In our world, we can do it close enough like it. Now sometimes you may find when you first start, it's easier to take the canvas off your easel and turn it upside down and just basically repaint the mountain. If that works for you, that's okay. Any way that it works. Now, I'm going to take, and just like we did, I'm going to pull that color. Just want to pull it. There. Once again, the liquid white allows you to move color on here. That easy. That easy. All right. See, that gives us a basic reflection there. It may not be exact, but it's close enough.
Like, damn, Trout, what else you got to paint on this shit? Oh, I see. His eyebrows. Oh, okay, I see now.
Shake off the excess thinner. I hit the bucket there. There you go.
I hit the bucket there. Yo, my man Ross, yo.
I usually run the brush across a little paper towel just to make sure it's as dry as I can possibly get it. You don't want to go up and touch the canvas with a wet brush. There. Keep your canvas and your paint as thick and firm as possible.
Thick
One of our
and
golden
firm.
rules is a thin paint will stick to a thick paint. So you want to keep this as thick as possible. I'm going to take a little white, a little black.
No, a little white,
just a touch
little
of
black.
gray.
Just mix them together.
Something like so.
Something like so.
Roll of paint.
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll always
Is it
look
just me?
at little
Is y'all not hearing this? It's just me, right?
distinct things
I'm
today.
just fucking this shit up right now.
Little things happening.
My bad.
No
I'm gonna be
pressure.
quiet.
Absolutely no pressure. Just let it
There's no pressure.
right across.
Absolutely. Yo, wait a minute.
Just want to give some indications.
Oh my God. I'm just trying to give some indications, but not a lot of pressure.
About it. Just a little. Sometimes we put a lot of indications, sometimes a few, and it's really and truly up to you. You decide what's in your world. There, see, maybe there's a little bump right there, and you can take a little of this, give it a little pull.
Wait a minute.
Just sort of a quiet little pull.
Oh, wow.
There.
My mind is so perverted in my old age.
No pressure.
Jesus.
I know
When did I
say
get
that
like
over and
this?
over in the shows.
I never
probably the single
listened to Bob Ross like this
biggest
before.
mistake people make when they first start is applying too much pressure on the knife. Then it looks just like you were icing a cake. That's all right, but it really looks better if the paint sort of breaks. And by break, that just means it has holes in it. And that's done by just a gentle pressure. Very, very gentle pressure. All right. Something about like that. And we can sort of just rub it a little bit. Blend it out. Once again, I don't want a lot of detail in this one. Clean, dry brush. And I'm going to tap the base, following the angles here. Always follow those angles. And just blend it a little bit. Just blend it, blend it. Bring it together, like so. That's all there is to it. All right. Now then, tell you what, we'll just take, little brush working pretty good. We'll just take that same mountain color, same old mountain color, it's sort of a lavender. We'll tap a little bit right into that 2-inch brush. Don't be afraid of this brush because it's large. It'll do wonderful things. Now then, let's decide. Yeah, there we go. Maybe right in here, there's a little.
It's not just me, bro. I know it's not just
Just a
me.
little footy hill, right at the base of the mountain. Just tapped in the basic shape that you want it to be. Maybe something about like that. It doesn't matter. It's up to you. There.
Man is dropping some innuendos.
Very gently. Grab it and lift up. Tiny little strokes, though. Short little strokes. And do it in layers. It'll give the impression of distant trees that live far away. They live right at the base of this old mountain. What a view they would have. A little touch of that color. And we can go right in here and give the indication of a little reflection of that. That easy. Now then, let me get a clean brush. I have several of each brush here. I want to create the illusion of a reflection on this that we dropped in here. Normally we pull down. This time, pull up. And I'm beating the brush just to remove excess color. Because you're going to pick up a little color, and that will remove it. See there? All there is to it. Now, very lightly, go across. And that'll give the indication of an instant reflection. That easy. All right. Now then, let's have some fun. We'll just use that same mountain color. So we had some blue and some black and some crimson. I'll put some brown in it. And some sap green.
Put some brown in it.
Basically all your dark colors.
Mm-hmm.
Some sap green. All right, let me clean the old knife. Now then, let's grab us a little fan brush. There's one, number 6 fan brush. Take a little color. Just put a little bit of color right on the brush. That's all there is to it, okay? Now maybe, let's see if that shows up. Might have to make it a little lighter to get it to show, so we'll add a little white. Just a little touch of white. Yeah, that's a little better. Now then, I'm just going to take and grab that and lift upward. I want it to look like little trees, a little closer to us, but living very far away. Very far away. Just touch it. All you're doing is putting a little line of paint, and then you lift it upward. Could not be simpler. There. There, that's all there's to it. We'll take the knife, a little bit of dark sienna and Van Dyke brown mixed together, maybe a little white with it.
Van Dyke brown, boy.
There you go. That's a nice color, I like that. Just sort of play around with color till you get what you want. Our little roll of paint. And let's go right up in here. And with that, we'll just put the indication, maybe like here, right there. See? I'm sorry, I get excited. I've painted like this for 20 years, and I still get excited when I see it work. It's so wonderful. I was a traditional painter for many years, and I now call that my agony years, because I agonized over paintings. A little bit of liquid white, and we'll just cut in a little water line. Just a little tiny water line. This is sort of a light area that separates the two darks.
I do agonize over this shit sometimes. Like, it's not right.
You put a little too much liquid white on there. And
why can't I get it right? Bob,
right.
like, man, fuck that shit. I'm just gonna paint some trees, some little mountains and shit. I'm not agonizing over this shit ever again.
All right, that gives us a pretty nice little background. Let's see. We need to figure out what we're going to put in here. So let's take crazy time. We'll take some more of that. We got some Prussian blue, sap green, crimson, brown. We'll mix up a pretty good pile of paint here. Let's play a little. All right. Here's an old 2-inch brush. We'll take him, load a lot of color into the brush. And we have to sort of make some decisions in our world. Let's just block in some areas. Now then, maybe in our world, we're going to have a big tree that lives right here. We're not looking for a lot of detail here. All we're doing is blocking in some basic shape. This is sort of your bravery test after you've worked so hard to put in all those gorgeous things. Then you come up here, some crazy fuzzy-haired guy says, put in a big tree right over the top of it. But that's all right. There. We'll decide where that goes later. Maybe we'll grab a little fan brush. We'll have some more fun here. Take a fan brush, load it full of that dark color. Maybe there's a little peninsula right here. Yeah. When you paint, you begin to see things. Let them happen. Just let them happen. Let them happen. Don't worry about them. Learn to compose as you paint. Learn to take advantage of what happens. We call those happy accidents. And they can be your best friend. There. Maybe. Yeah, maybe it comes right on down. Right in there. About like that. We don't even know where it goes over there. Don't think we care at this point. All right. Just want to create a little mist down here at the base. We can do that with a clean brush. Like so. Then lift slightly upward. Sort of brings everything together. There. Of course, right underneath that, we'd need a reflection. We would need a reflection, so just pull it straight down. Straight down. It's most important, though, that it goes straight down. Reflection should be as dark as the object that's casting the reflection. There. And go across. Give us a little instant reflection. Now, maybe, I'll tell you what, maybe there's a tree that lives right here. We'll put some highlight on him so it'll show. This one lives a little closer to us, so we can make out a little more detail on him. There. He's got a friend.
He's got a friend.
Tree lives right here and watches everything.
This tree's happy with his friend.
All right. Now, I'll go right into a little touch of the cadmium yellow, yellow ochre. Sooner or later, I'll hit all the yellows and a little bit of the red. I want to make a nice green color. Because you had blue and black on your brush, when you go in here, you'll get green instantly. Now then, we can come right along in here and place us a few little highlights on this tree. That'll snatch you right out in that background. A little more color. And we'll put a few highlights on this little rascal. Maybe in our world here, maybe there's a few little grassy things that we're beginning to see. Don't want a lot of detail yet. Just a few little things far away. Little sparklers. There they go. We don't know where they go over here. Don't know where they go.
Hello?
Take a little bit of our brown and white we used. And we can put the indication of a little landmass here. See there? That's simple. A little bit of land. A touch of liquid white.
Damn.
A lot of color. Just a little here and there. See how that works. It's neat, huh? Now then, we gotta decide where this big tree lives. Here he comes. Here he comes. He comes right on down. This is just dark color. Just a lot of dark color. Maybe it comes all the way down here. I don't know. That's the beauty of painting like this. You really don't have to know exactly where everything's at. It just works. A little paint thinner, liner brush, a brown color, here and there, and there and here. We'll just put the indication of a little limb, little trunk, lives in there. Don't have to worry about it very much. Let's we'll use some of that yellow, greens. Mix them on the 2-inch brush though. Let's go right in here and let's just begin picking out some highlights. There, just the corner of the brush. All you're using. There you are. Now if you've got a very thick, dry paint up on the canvas, you can put this right on here. It'll go right on the top without mixing together. But the paint on your brush has to be a little bit thinner than what you have on the canvas already. It'll always pull toward the thickest area. There we are. And our yellows are made just a little bit thinner, so that works automatically. There. Maybe down like that. And I'm going to change the flavor a little bit, add a little bright red.
He said, I'm going to change the flavor a little bit.
Maybe, yeah, you're right. Right there. There's another little tree, bush, whatever you want to call it. Wherever. But we're still just using the corner of the brush. It's really all there is to it. And I'm going to dip the brush into a little touch of paint thinner. I want to make it just a little thinner.
I'm gonna go.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Petra, also known as the Lost City of Stone, is made up of massive structures that are sculpted right out of the side of canyon walls, hidden in the remote mountains of Jordan, and is one of the most underrated sites of lost ancient human civilization. Of massive structures that are sculpted.
See, man, I got my passport, so the first time I travel, I'm going here or I'm going to Baalbek. Motherfuckers like, go to Jamaica, go to Hawaii. Why? Go to some really touristy ass resort or some shit. I want to go see some shit like this.
Walls, hidden in the remote mountains of Jordan, and is one of the most underrated sites of lost ancient human civilization. And when I say that these structures are massive, just compare the size of the doorways to people, as you can see here at some of the most famous sites within Petra. But what is perhaps even more interesting than that is that even though most people at some point have seen these iconic photos, few people have any idea of what's actually on the other side of these doorways. And in this video, I'm going to show you some incredible images of what's inside these structures, particularly the so-called treasury, also the so-called urn tomb.
Why would a door so fucking big? And it's the same thing at Baalbek. You got fucking doorways that are fucking 12, 14 feet tall. Who the fuck needs a fucking 14-foot head clearance to, walk into an entryway? Here at fucking Petra. Your entryways are fucking 12, 14 feet tall. Why?
And of course, the so-called monastery. And I'm going to show you a few others as well. Now, unless you've watched certain documentaries about Petra, and I've watched a few, but I was actually surprised to see on just how little is actually shown of what's inside these structures. And by the way, they certainly don't share it in the public school system, at least not here in the United States. So unless you've taken it upon yourself to do research on this topic, you probably don't know much about Petra. Let me start by showing you how to even get into the city of Petra in the first place, at the entrance of what's called the Seek, a narrow 3/4 of a mile long canyon, or 1.2 kilometers, and is up to 80 meters deep, or 260 feet. One thing that's incredible about the Seek, besides its beauty, is that the ancient inhabitants of this site cut out a water channel that extends 1.5 miles through the Seek, and you can see it here on both sides of the sandstone canyon walls. And when you finally get to the end of the Seek, the first thing you see is what's referred to as the treasury, which is undoubtedly the most famous site at Petra. And take a look at the view from above of the area, and also note that the arrow which I placed, it's not precise, but it simply just represents the direction of coming out of the Seek. The treasury, though, is massive. It's 131 feet high, or about 40 meters, and 80 feet wide, or about 25 meters. And in fact, it's so tall that the sculpture itself is twice the height of the carved faces on the Mount Rushmore monument. And the precision is simply remarkable, similar to the works of the ancient Greeks, but this is unique in its own way and is one of a kind. So the big question is, how did they do this? We can see evidence of chiseling on the sandstone, and although sandstone is typically quite soft and easy to work with, this particular sandstone is quite hard, requiring steel tooling, which did exist at the time, and according to textbooks, Petra was created around 2,000 to 2,500 years ago by the Nabateans. This is, of course, debated because Nabateans were essentially Bedouin, or nomadic tent dwellers. I, for one, do not believe it, and I strongly suspect that the Nabateans simply found this site and inhabited it, just like the Romans did when they found it later on and built upon it, and as you can see here in a few examples. But ultimately, the original builders of Petra are unknown, and there is a serious lack of physical evidence to suggest that the Nabateans did this. Now, this is not to say that it wasn't possible to do with people with steel chisels. It certainly was possible. And you can see examples of this in the cutout sandstone, like I mentioned. However, the amount of time and difficulty to do this is beyond incredible. To get a better understanding of this, and without further ado, let's take a look at what's actually inside the so-called treasury. As you can see, when you walk up the steps, there are 3 doors, 2 smaller ones on each side and a massive door in the center. Walking in through the main door, this is what you see. You enter a chamber with 3 more doors. These doors are seemingly just small, closets, chambers, tombs. I don't know what to make of it. Leave a comment if you have an idea. But you need to compare the size of these doors to people to get a better understanding of just how Walking in to take a look at what's cut out sandstone, like I mentioned. However, the amount of time and difficulty to do this is beyond incredible. To get a better understanding of this, and without further ado, let's take a look at what's actually inside the so-called treasury. As you can see, when you walk up the steps, there are 3 doors, 2 smaller ones on each side and a massive door in the center. Walking in through the main door, this is what you see. You enter a chamber with 3 more doors. These doors are seemingly just small, closets, chambers, tombs. I don't know what to make of it. Leave a comment if you have an idea. But you need to compare the size of these doors to people to get a better understanding of just how massive this room is. And by the way, if you think that this room is impressive, wait until you see what I show you later in this video. But also look at the incredible precision, and of course the colors of the blended sandstone is simply beautiful. But the question is, why did they build this, and what was its original purpose? It's been called the treasury because legends go back stating that riches were kept and stored here, but what its actual purpose was, nobody can say for sure. This is a view looking outside the chamber, and you can see the seek from which we would have come in at, and looking left and right, there are 2 additional doors on each side, like I mentioned, yet I could not find one single photo or video of what's inside them or how big they actually are. And none of the documentaries I saw showed it either, and I'm guessing that they are just 2 small rooms with high ceilings. I mean, that's a question. But that's not all, because there's an additional chamber directly below the treasury, which is now sealed under a locked gate. I have no pictures, and I've seen no videos of what's inside this underground chamber either, but my understanding is that it's about 100 feet long, 100 feet wide, and 30 feet high. And some 300,000 cubic feet of stone was removed in just that one chamber alone. And this doesn't include the millions of cubic feet of stone that was ultimately removed from the nearly 30 large chambers located throughout Petra. In fact, the treasury only makes up 1% of Petra. And take a quick look at this map, looking from right to left as it begins at the entrance of the Seek and extends actually a total of 12 kilometers or 7 miles to the so-called monastery on the upper left, which I'll be showing you in just a moment. So leaving the treasury, you see that there is an additional side canyon that leads to what they call the Street of Facades, homes and tombs carved into stone walls. And here you can see an example of one of the tombs, and there were many found throughout Petra, by the way. And notice the evidence of chiseling, but there are also homes and chambers that you can see here as well. And it really makes you wonder what was once inside these places, because if they can cut stone, surely they can create some interesting furniture, which is of course long since gone. But as we continue the path, we come up on the Petra Theater, which was carved right out of the sandstone surroundings. The theater's auditorium consists of 3 horizontal sections of seats separated by passageways and 7 stairways to ascend. This theater could accommodate approximately 8,500 people, which is more than the estimated 6,000 seats of the Amman Theater within the capital of Jordan, which was constructed by the Romans. I would just love to have seen this theater at its peak before the sands of time got to it, and I can only imagine how much work was put into creating this. But as we continue on from the theater, we pass more incredible facades, and there are hundreds of them found throughout Petra, all of which would be incredibly difficult to construct with just chisels. And this takes us to what's referred to as the urn tomb. Like I mentioned earlier, you can see the lower part of it, which was added by the Romans. But just how high up they went to cut this out is impressive. But what you're about to see inside this doorway is simply...
Liberty Mutual lets you only pay for what you need, which saves you money. Studies show you like money.
Amazing. Look at that. It's difficult to even know what to say about it. The colors of the ceiling from the cutout sandstone is astounding, but the size of this chamber is also better appreciated when you compare it to people inside of it. What was the purpose of these cutouts on the sides of the walls? What was the purpose of this room? And what did it look like thousands of years ago when it was presumably furnished or used for whatever it was? Not to mention that a few 100,000 cubic feet of stone had to be cut out and removed. And they did so with such incredible precision, as you can see. But another question is, why did they choose to make the ceilings this high? It's one thing to create something that is meant to awe people, which it certainly does. But they certainly did not have to make the ceiling this high.
Yo, good morning.
They went to cut this out is impressive, but what you're about to see inside this doorway is simply amazing. Look at that. It's difficult to even know what to say about it. The colors of the ceiling from the cutout sandstone is astounding, but the size of this chamber is also better appreciated when you compare it to people inside of it. What was the purpose of these cutouts on the sides of the walls? What was the purpose of this room? And what did it look like thousands of years ago when it was presumably furnished or used for whatever it was? Not to mention that a few 100,000 cubic feet of stone had to be cut out and removed. And they did so with such incredible precision, as you can see. But another question is, why do they choose to make the ceilings this high? It's one thing to create something that is meant to awe people, which it certainly does. But they certainly did not have to make the ceiling this high up to impress anyone. I mean, even if it was just a few feet lower, it would have been just as amazing, yet it would have saved a ton of time and energy. But your guess is as good as anyone else's as to what the purpose of this room was. Academics will tell you that this was a tomb, which is their explanation for most everything else at Petra, and it's also their explanation for most all megalithic structures found throughout the ancient world.
It was a tomb.
It's either a temple or a tomb.
It was a tomb.
As if that's all the ancients ever did was pray all the time and plan their burials for their deaths down the road. Like, come on. But that aside, the so-called urn tomb is surrounded by additional structures on the left and right, and upon a closer view, look at how massive it is compared to people. Also note the weather erosion and various damage on the structure. But this is not all that Petra has to offer, and before I show you the monastery, we must pass through the city center, which I'll quickly touch on. What you see here is referred to as the Great Temple. Yep, must be a temple, of course. But some 30,000 people are estimated to have lived in Petra at its peak. And what you're looking at is what's left of a massive complex of more than 100 pillars. I imagine that what this looked like completed was probably beyond impressive, and some people have theorized the possibilities, as you can see here in this image. So going from the city center to the monastery requires a difficult hike up the stone hills on foot. And as you can see, the design and size of this is truly astonishing. The so-called monastery measures 160 feet wide, or 50 meters, by approximately 148 feet high, or 45 meters, making it 20 feet taller than the treasury and twice as wide. And again, it's a must to compare its size to people to truly appreciate its eminence. I'm not exactly sure how tall this door is, but wow. And the step itself is up to our necks. Perhaps there are some missing stairs that were destroyed long ago. If you take a look at the front of the structure, it appears to have some unique damage on the lower part of it. Is this weather related? And why is the rest of it without damage? But getting back to its size, take a look at the center circular part of the structure at the top. And now compare it to a person that is standing on it. Isn't that incredible? Honestly, did you have any idea that these structures were this big? Before I ever did any research on Petra, I already knew that this site was impressive, but I had no idea that these structures were this big. So the question now is, what's inside of it? So let's look. What exactly are we looking at? A cutout with a small, shallow stage with a set of stairs on each side, and its size, again, can only be properly appreciated when you compare it to a person. What was the purpose of this room, and why did they go to such extreme extent to build something like this? All we are left with today are guesses. But, of course, go figure, academics labeled it a monastery. Now, people will say as to why they went to such extent to create something so impressive is because, well, they did it because they could do it. Well, yeah, they could. I agree, somebody could and did. But perhaps this was done long ago, before this region was as dry as it is now. Keep in mind that this is one of the driest places on Earth, only receiving a few inches of rainfall every year. It would make much more sense for this site to have been created further back in time than just 2,000 years ago, perhaps to a time when the region received more rainfall, just like what we've learned about ancient Egypt once being lush with vegetation. Just think, if all of Petra was constructed with a huge labor force with the slow and painful process of using steel chisels, why would they do it in the middle of a desert when they would need an abundance of water? And there is evidence that Petra is very old. In fact, there was a new monument discovered in 2016. found by drones and satellite imagery, and is described as hiding in plain sight all this time. This massive platform is twice the size of an Olympic swimming pool and is now mostly buried. Archaeologists said it's probably 2,000 years old, but I have a feeling that this thing could be much older than much of Petra itself. I mean, look at other structures around Petra that appear to show that some are indeed older than others. And as you can see in the example of what's called the obelisk tomb, obviously it's heavily eroded, especially on the lower part of it. And look at other images of the structures that seem to have far more weathering than others. And again, notice their size. And while I'm at it, take a look at other chambers found throughout the city of Petra. They just make you wonder what the story is and what they were used for. And I still can't get over just how awesome the colors of the sandstone are. But one of the chambers that stands out to me is this one. Look at this. When you see the picture on the left, you simply have no frame of reference of just how massive it truly is, or how high the ceiling is until you see it with a person within it. What on earth was the purpose of this highly precise stonework? Seriously, what is that? Like a portal or something? I mean, really, what was the purpose of making this? Was it just decoration? And again, why is the ceiling so high? I think it's possible that Petra was created by the survivors of the last cataclysm, which of course I've shared details on that in prior videos. That maybe perhaps certain technology or knowledge was passed down from the survivors, which was later used in creating this site. And I'm not suggesting that Petra is 12,000 years old either. I'm simply suggesting that there is far more to the story than what we've been told about it. I also think that the location of Petra is telling, a safe place hidden from outsiders and elements. Ultimately, the original builders of Petra are unknown, and we need to consider that there is a serious lack of evidence to actually suggest that the Nabateans, which again were nomadic tent dwellers, all of a sudden became sophisticated and decided to construct this site. This is, of course, a very debatable topic, so definitely leave a comment and share your thoughts on this. And don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe, but I'll leave it at that. I'm Jimmy, this is Bright Insight, and I have many more videos to come on a whole wide variety of topics. Take care, everybody.
Hi, my name is Quirky Purple, and welcome to the Purple Boys series on ideal sleep solutions and zonk strategies. I'm joined by one of the co-creators of the Purple Boys, Gino Purple.
Thank you so much, Quirk. I am indeed Gino Purple, the Purple Boy, and we are here to help you sleep.
Today we're going to be talking about the Sunday Scaries.
And we're going to take you on a wild ride to teach you how to say no-no to the Sunday Scare no-nos.
Purple Boys. Release your mind. Let the sleep flow through you.
Do you have 2 minutes of time to let me help you sleep?
Count on.
It's time to sleep. Sleep.
What the fuck?
Legends of an ancient race of giants are shared among cultures that span across multiple continents from around the world, and are included in the most common religions here on Earth as well, including Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, and even Buddhism, to name a few examples. In fact, even the Sumerians, who are the earliest documented human civilization on record, also share details of a race of giants once living here on Earth. Even the ancient Greeks described the giants included among the Greek gods. And there are many different words that have been used to describe the race of massive humans, such as the Nephilim from the Bible, the Thamud people in the Quran, the Deitas in Hinduism, and the Asura in Buddhism. And descriptions of red-haired, white-skinned giants are shared by several different Native American tribes in North America, and even reaching as far away as the Manta people in Peru in South America. Now on this channel, I have made many videos discussing massive megalithic structures found throughout the world, many of which are just as mysterious as they are massive, as there is a huge missing chapter within our ancient history in that we do not know exactly how or by who many of these structures were created. And I have received literally thousands of comments from people on various videos stating that these structures were built by giants. Now let me first say that I have always assumed that the various myths and legends of a race of giants existing on Earth were simply exaggerated stories passed down over thousands of years. And I figured that, well, if giants actually did exist, we certainly would have found some skeletons and remains by now, and we haven't. Or have we? I'll be discussing that later in this video. First, let's acknowledge that there are indeed rare examples of people growing to be what many would consider to be a giant. Perhaps the most famous example is Andre the Giant, who was 7 foot 4 inches tall, or 224 centimeters, and weighed 520 pounds, or 236 kilograms.
Here's how I paid off $50,000 of student debt by making disgusting YouTube videos like this.
Look at just how big he is compared to Muhammad Ali, who was nearly 6 foot 4, and look at how big his fist is compared to Ali's head. Even compare his hand to a standard 12-ounce beer can. Isn't that just incredible? It seems to me that the word giant is a very appropriate word to describe him, but it must be mentioned that he had a disorder of excessive growth hormone, which allowed him to grow so large, and resulted in him dying of a heart attack at 47 years of age. He grew too large for his heart to sustain him, and ultimately passing away due to complications of what's called gigantism. In fact, the tallest human to ever have existed, at least verified through irrefutable evidence, is a man named Robert Wadlow, who reached a height of 8 feet 11 inches, or 272 centimeters. And he was still growing up until he died at the early age of 22. He, just like Andre the Giant, also suffered from gigantism, which is caused by hyperplasia of the pituitary gland, causing his abnormal and excessive growth, which also caused issues in his bones and joints. In fact, he needed braces for his legs just to walk. And he ended up dying actually of an ankle infection in 1940. But neither of these examples are the result of being from a race of giants. I mean, they weren't so large because their parents were giants that gave birth to other giants. So is it possible that the various myths and legends of giants existing in the past are actually just similar examples to modern times where in certain rare examples people grow to be exceptionally large? Let's consider the biblical story of David versus Goliath, which is also included in the Quran, by the way, with different names. Goliath being Jalu, if I pronounce that correctly. But according to the King James Version of the Bible, Goliath's height, when converted to modern measurements, would be nearly 10 feet tall. Could this be an exaggerated figure for someone who was actually, say, between 7 or 8 feet tall? I speculate simply because I'm always reminded of the telephone game, which of course is a great way of portraying how information always changes when it's passed down through people over time and through different languages. I mean, think about it. If you pick out a current news story and then decide to go research that story from 3 different news outlets, you're going to get 3 different versions of the story every time, which is pretty odd considering it's 2018 and all of our technological abilities and abilities to, well, communicate information, and we still can't get things right. So just compare the large discrepancy between the King James description of Goliath being 9 feet 9 inches tall to the Book of Enoch found within the Dead Sea Scrolls, which states that Goliath was actually 6 feet 7 inches. That is a large discrepancy, and I'll be discussing more about the Dead Sea Scrolls in just a moment. But first it's worth mentioning that the 6 cubits and a span, or the 9 foot 9 inch measurement, comes specifically out of the King James Version of the Bible from the year 1611. Just one small example of King James altering the Bible, which is of course a very controversial subject, just like the many allegations that the Vatican had altered the Bible as well, but that's a topic for another video. So, the story of Goliath aside, let's discuss the description of King Gilgamesh of the ancient Sumerians, who is said to have reigned in power for 126 years according to the Sumerian king list. He is said to have been 11 cubits tall, which is equivalent to 18 feet or 5 meters. It is even detailed that his punt poles used for moving and steering his boat were 60 cubits long each, which is equivalent to 90 feet or 27.5 meters. Look at these statues of King Gilgamesh holding a lion, and this has been depicted in many different statues. So, is this a baby lion, or is he a freaking giant? The lion appears to be male based on having its mane, which would also make it an adult. Many people are not aware of just how big lions get. In fact, male African lions can exceed 500 pounds or 225 kilograms. And here are a few pictures for simple comparison, but it's really not until you're up close to one that you realize just how massive they are. I mean, their backs are almost up to your chest, and not to mention just how long their bodies are. Now, obviously, these statues do not mean that Gilgamesh was actually a giant, and you could easily infer that he raised lions, and this is symbolic of him training them, or taming them, or controlling them, who knows. But similar depictions are also shown in Sumerian clay tablets as well. And like I mentioned earlier, the Sumerian tablets and statues are from the earliest recorded human civilization. The earliest literature in the known existence of mankind details the existence of a race of giants. And by the way, if you've seen my other videos, I do discuss other civilizations which date back tens of thousands of years earlier. I'm simply referring to documented civilization in this video, but some of these tablets show individuals that are much larger than others, and this is something that has also been depicted in Egyptian hieroglyphs as well. However, this has often been believed to be symbolism of differentiating people of power or royalty to everyone else. So like I mentioned a few moments ago about the Dead Sea Scrolls, it is really interesting to mention that a race of giants, or the Nephilim, who were discussed in the Book of Enoch, which was included within the Dead Sea Scrolls. I've mentioned these scrolls in other videos when mentioning the Book of Watchers, but if you're not familiar, these scrolls were hidden inside caves located on the side of remote desert cliffs near the Dead Sea, and they were buried inside of sealed jars for thousands of years. It really makes you wonder why someone or a group of people went to such an...
Yo, Tick. You believe in the Nephilim, or a race of giants? You think that the ancient stone builders were giants? I'm coming to that conclusion, man. Because when you look at people walk around these fucking megalithic sites, and you see this fucking stonework and how massive these blocks are, it's like, I mean, what else can you assume? And they're building these cities, and the doorway is fucking 14 feet high. The ceiling is like a 30-foot fucking ceiling. Why? That's a hard job to do. To carve out a room inside the side of a mountain and make the fucking ceiling 30 feet high. Why did you do that? Why did you build this wall, but the blocks are fucking 300 tons? 300,000 tons. Maybe they were just big people, like way bigger people. And to build shit that big was normal for their size. And to move things that heavy wasn't as big of a challenge for them. In Europe, I heard about the giant of Kandahar that took out a squadron. Another squadron went out to look for the first squadron. Came across this red-haired giant. Had a fucking pike. It attacked them. It speared one guy, hoisted him up on the pike. Say the other 6 military soldiers had to shoot him in the face to actually kill him. They got the body back to base, and then another chopper came from the base and took it somewhere else. That all comes from hearsay from supposedly the pilot who lifted the body from the scene. Now, he wasn't there when they shot this thing at all. He wasn't there, but the guys told him what happened, and he was the pilot who moved it to the base in Kandahar. And then he said another chopper came and took it from the base, took the body from the base and took it somewhere else, and nobody ever saw that shit again after that. But I think that's made up, honestly. I mean, that's how the story goes, but I think it's a load of shit. I have people in the military. I ask them questions and motherfuckers like they never heard of that shit. Dude, that shit just made up. The giant of Kandahar.
Incredible extent to hide and preserve the information included in these scrolls. But let's be real. The fact that giants were written about on some scrolls thousands of years ago is not evidence that a race of giants actually existed. And nor are the massive examples of megalithic structures from ancient times. For example, in my Petra video, I received hundreds of comments suggesting that the doors are so big because it was created and inhabited by giants.
Giants.
Look at the so-called monastery located at Petra. This building is 150 feet tall, or 46 meters. And I'm not exactly sure how tall the door is, but just compare it to people. Now look at this photo, and in the top right corner, that is a man standing between those two circles. So why did they choose to make the structure so big? And which, by the way, it was carved out of the side of a mountain in the remote desert of Jordan. However, when you look at the so-called treasury, which is also located at Petra, you can see that despite the massive doorway, the steps are of normal size. And another great example is at Baalbek in Lebanon. I received many comments from people suggesting that this site was created by giants.
That's
and
where I
look at
wanna
the
go.
size of the unbelievably large foundation stones at the Heliopolis, and compare them to people standing nearby. And when you ascend into the Heliopolis, look at the size of people compared to the Temple of Bacchus. Simply massive. Well, now look at the door. Obviously, that's amazing. But when you actually look at the steps you climb to reach it, you'll notice that they are of normal size. And it's the same when you enter inside the temple as well, and you can see there on the altar that the steps are, well, I would say standard size. If this was indeed for giants, why are the steps so small in comparison? And of course, when you look at the steps that you climb up to at the Temple of Jupiter, which is located right next to the Temple of Bacchus, I mean, if these were made for giants, again, why are the steps so small and obviously of an appropriate size for humans?
They reshaped the steps.
Now, of course, that does not mean that giants didn't build these sites for regular-sized people. But this, of course, brings us to the big question, which is that if a race of giants did exist, then where's all the evidence? Where's all the skeletal remains?
Where are they at?
Because it seems like we don't have bones, but we have a lot of tales and myths about it. I mean, we find so many dinosaur fossils, yet we haven't found any of human giants that would have been around far more recently in time. And this is where we get to the conspiracy side of things, where people suggest that, no, wait a second, we have actually found many different skeletal remains of giants, but the evidence has been covered up and destroyed. This stems from many different...
This is Jana. She paid off all her student debt by making YouTube videos. Here's how she did it.
news articles that were published in newspapers many years ago. Take, for example, one that was published in the New York Times from back in 1897, which described a discovery of a human being over 9 feet tall from head to foot. And the skull was described as being half a bushel, which, correct me if I'm wrong, would be something equivalent to around 4 gallons in size. The article goes on to describe that the skeleton was found, along with other relics, within a mound in Wisconsin. So, one topic that I have not made a video on are the ancient mounds of North America, which many people do not even know exist. And I need to do more research on this topic before I make a video on it, but these mounds are scattered among many different states in North America, including Ohio, Mississippi, West Virginia, Tennessee, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Georgia, Illinois, and a few other states. And many people claim that these mounds are actually burial sites of giants, and the skeletons were removed in a cover-up during excavations that were conducted well over 100 years ago. There was actually another article in the New York Times published in 1902 reporting on an expedition of archaeologists that had discovered a giant skeleton in New Mexico, stating that it was 12 feet tall, which, by the way, that's about 366 centimeters, and had a forearm that was 4 feet in length and a well-preserved lower jaw and teeth, get this, teeth as large as the size of large walnuts. Not only that, but the chest was said to have a circumference of 7 feet, or 214 centimeters. And this story was never heard of again. Did anyone actually discover a 20-foot skeleton? I really can't find an answer about that at all, but you would assume that it's not true. And these are just 2 articles. If you do a Google search for newspaper discoveries on giants, you'll find quite a few articles that date back more than 100 years, all discussing the discovery of giants, even groups of 200 giant skeletons found in a cave, all of which exceeded 9 feet tall. And here are a few examples of various newspaper articles from long ago discussing similar finds. But there seems to be no way to verify if any of these discoveries were actually true, and these stories date back so long ago that nobody involved is alive today. But many people believe that due to the Smithsonian's involvement in many of these excavations, particularly at the ancient mounds, that the evidence was suppressed from the masses due to various reasons, including, of course, religious implications. And different rumors and theories have been developed over the years, even stating that the Supreme Court of the United States had ordered the Smithsonian to disclose their evidence. But according to Snopes, which I do not consider an authority on information any more than I do Wikipedia, which, by the way, I only show Wikipedia screenshots on my videos to show the viewer in a simple, easy way that the topic that I'm discussing is actually documented. That said, Snopes declared this to be a false story and that the Supreme Court did not order the Smithsonian to do anything. But even if it were true that a race of giants had been discovered and that there was a cover-up or the bones had been destroyed, we still should have found something by now. I mean, random people have found dinosaur bones and the remains of woolly mammoths, whether it be construction crews, gold miners, people hiking on the beach or in the woods. Random people have found these remains, yet we don't have people finding the remains of massive humans. I also believe that if giant fossils had been legitimately found, the evidence would be out by now, because somebody would surely have taken the payday for those bones. I mean, holy crap, if someone actually found a 12 or a 15-foot tall skeleton of a human, holy crap, would that be a game changer and would make somebody really freaking rich in the process too, because those bones would be worth millions of dollars. So surely someone would leak that information out by now, right? What I can tell you is that there is a lot of fake crap out there on the internet involving the discovery of giants. Many different CGI photos that are simply not real, and here are just a few examples that have been around the internet for years. One interesting story, which comes out of Egypt, involved the supposed finger of a giant, which measures 38 centimeters or 15 inches in length.
I heard this story.
And would have belonged to a human approximately 5 meters in height or 16.5 feet tall. And these pictures were taken back in 1988, and apparently the man that had possession of the finger was offered money for it, which he refused, and then he vanished along with the finger. Neither one of them were ever seen or heard from again, and that was back in 1988. So if it was real, why didn't he submit it for testing? Well, that is unless it actually was real and the guy was, I don't know, murdered and the finger taken from him, thus explaining why he and the alleged finger disappeared and have never been heard from since. But maybe it was just a total fake to begin with. A notable example of a potential proof of a giant involves this footprint found in South Africa. Long story short, Dr. Robert Schoch, who I admire and trust, has examined the print and he states that it's most likely to be natural, just like the snowman-shaped figure located just a few feet from it. And you can read the details on Dr. Schoch's website, but it comes down to the incredibly high temperature in which granite is formed at. Schoch believes that this is simply natural, yet obviously an unusual shape, and it of course could be fake as well. But this is a 3 billion-year-old stone, and it's obviously ridiculous to assume that someone, regardless of their size, would step onto molten magma or lava, and obviously you must ask how someone could make a snowman-type shape figure to go along with it. There have been other reasons why people have suggested that a race of giants existed, including various large artifacts of axes or arrowheads. But there could be so many different explanations for this, such as art or decoration. Now, as I did more research on this topic for making this video, it became apparent that the information I've discussed so far is barely scratching the surface of all the information out there related to giants in some way. For example, there were bones found, referred to as the Giant of Castle New, which allegedly is a skeleton that would have been 11.5 feet or 3.5 meters tall. So, is this legitimate or not? I mean, if the bones were real, then why hasn't there been any type of modern-day study to confirm it? Do you see what I'm saying? Now, I may make another video in the future on the topic of giants, but I ultimately need to see more evidence or legitimate evidence to really buy into it. But at the same time, I'm a very open-minded person and know that we are very ignorant to historical events in the past history of Earth, so anything is possible. But my personal thoughts are that the myths and legends of giants actually refer to giants of mind, that people of incredible intelligence lived long ago. And when you find various megalithic structures that were constructed in most likely pre-Diluvian times in certain examples, more specifically before the Younger Dryas climate catastrophe of 13,000 and 11,600 years ago, perhaps in the several millennia following this event as mankind made its rebound and stumbled upon various megalithic sites, maybe this is how this legend was developed. I mean, after all, the true history of ancient human civilization is far older and advanced than what we were taught in school. And over the course of 12,000 years since the climate catastrophe, that is way more than enough time to erase all the evidence excluding that of megalithic stones. Ultimately, it is interesting that so many different cultures from across multiple continents from around the world all share this same legend. So I look forward to reading comments that people leave, as obviously I'm not including so many different things in this video because there's only so much time. So leave me a comment and share your thoughts, but I'm going to close it up there. I'm Jimmy, this is Bright Insight. Hit the like button and subscribe, and I have many more videos to come in a whole wide variety of topics. Take care, everybody.
Go from CAD to physical object in no time. Use the Form 2 3D.
Not only did the lost city of Atlantis actually exist, but its true location has been hiding in plain sight for thousands of years, completely unnoticed, as we've been looking in all the wrong places for its location, since everyone assumes that it must be under the ocean somewhere, such as in the depths of the Atlantic Ocean or the Mediterranean Sea, which have long been considered to be the most likely places for its existence. And no, I am not about to suggest that Antarctica is the hidden location of Atlantis either. Because in this video, I'm going to use the exact words that Plato used to describe Atlantis, its location, and the geographical land features that surround it, which were recorded in Plato's dialogues, the Critias and the Timaeus. And many people are not even aware that the information contained in Plato's writings of Atlantis actually originate from the ancient Egyptians. And the details that Plato shared of Atlantis, which I'm about to share with you in a side-by-side comparison, will show you that the Rakart structure located in Mauritania, Africa, also commonly referred to as the Eye of the Sahara or the Eye of Africa, which most people have never even heard of, by the way, is the most likely location for the lost city of Atlantis, as it matches so many precise details of what Plato wrote. But it must first be mentioned that according to mainstream academics and historians, the legend of Atlantis is simply fictional and has been commonly referred to as a myth or even pseudo-history, which completely contradicts Plato and Solon, which described an empire referred to as Atlantis, which was known for being technologically advanced, with noble and powerful people possessing vast wealth, luxury, and knowledge, and even military superiority, and is described as being destroyed in a single day and night of misfortune, which caused the island of Atlantis to disappear into the depths of the sea, related to a massive earthquake and likely a tsunami. So first things first, Plato received all the information about Atlantis from Solon, who was his ancestral relative separated by 6 generations. Solon was born in Athens, Greece, some 2,600 years ago, and was an Athenian statesman, lawmaker, and poet, remembered particularly for his efforts to legislate against political corruption and economic and social decline in Athens. He was known to be a person of wisdom and outstanding character. In Solon's later years, he traveled to Egypt in the search of knowledge, and Egypt at that time had the longest documented historical records available. And he visited Neph's temple at Sais, where he learned of the history of Atlantis from a high Egyptian priest who translated the hieroglyphs that were carved into stone within the temple, which also described that Egypt was once a colony of the Empire of Atlantis. And Neph's temple no longer exists today, as it was destroyed long ago when it was consumed by what is now the Nile Delta swamplands. However, thanks to Solon's detailed notes, the information was retained and kept for 6 generations within Plato's family, before it was published by Plato himself in the Critias and the Timaeus dialogues approximately 2,400 years ago. So one of the first things to point out is the supposed date of Atlantis' destruction according to what Solon had learned while visiting Egypt, which was that the event that destroyed the lost city had occurred 9,000 years earlier, which is a very interesting time frame, considering that Solon visited Egypt 2,600 years ago. And 9,000 years plus 2,600 years equates to 11,600 years before present time today, which just so happens to coincide with the Younger Dryas climate catastrophe, which of course I've discussed in many other videos. Long story short, to anyone that's not familiar or new to the channel, there was a massive change in global temperatures, sea levels fluctuated, a massive extinction event of 75% of mammals in North America occurred. There's even evidence of global fires said to have been larger than the ones that occurred during the extinction event that killed off the dinosaurs, scorching at least 10% of the Earth's land surface. The evidence for this event is scientifically overwhelming and is likely related to a fragmented comet. And the point is that it's very likely that this event is related in some way to the destruction of Atlantis. And for more details, I highly recommend you look into the brilliant work of Randall Carlson and Graham Hancock. But what are the odds that this date of 11,600 years ago would match so perfectly? And that's not the only thing that matches up so closely. Most notably, Atlantis was said to be made up of concentric circles, 3 rings of water and 2 of land. In fact, here are Plato's exact words. There were alternate zones of sea and land, larger and smaller, encircling one another. There were 2 of land and 3 of water, which were turned as if with a lathe, each having its circumference equidistant every way from the center. And here you can see a few animated examples of what people have created based off of Plato's description of Atlantis. Now, compare this to the Ricart structure. Just look at this. The first thing that you must understand when you see this is that this is far larger than it looks. For example, this photo right here was taken from high altitude, and what you're seeing is something around 20 miles across, or 32 kilometers. And this particular photo does not even show the entire structure, which is approximately 30 miles or 48 kilometers across. And this site can really only be appreciated from space and satellite imagery, as it covers a vast area. In fact, the Ricart structure wasn't even discovered until the Gemini 4 mission in 1965, and is now a common landmark utilized by astronauts. This thing was hiding in plain sight for thousands of years, but when you look at photos of it from the ground, you have no idea what you're looking at. Only from the sky can you understand that you are part of this massive structure containing circles within circles. And in this example, you can see one of the outer rings in the distance, yet from the ground, it just looks like a hill. It's remarkable at just how much it does resemble an eye, and it makes perfect sense as to why it was given the nickname of the Eye of the Sahara and the Eye of Africa. And by the way, it is located approximately 250 miles or 400 kilometers inland off the coast of West Africa in a very remote area which is rarely visited and, again, unknown to most people. What's even more fascinating than its size and shape is that scientists do not know what it is or how it was formed, although they do think that it is natural, and it was first theorized to have been an impact site from a meteor, but that was ruled out as there is no evidence of an impact. In fact, scientists have never seen anything like this anywhere else throughout the entire world. Their number one guess is that it was probably formed around 100 million years ago as the supercontinent Pangaea was ripped apart by plate tectonics and what is now Africa and South America. They theorize that molten rock was pushed upwards towards the surface, but never made it all the way through, thus creating a dome of rock layers. And they suggest that at some point around 100 million years ago, the eye of the structure erupted, collapsing the bubble which makes up the center part of the structure, and erosion did the rest of the work to create what you see today, which is clearly heavily eroded. But this, of course, is all speculation, as it cannot be proven, and again, we've never seen anything like this anywhere else throughout the world. But here's where things start to get really interesting. It just so happens that the diameter of its outer circle is approximately 23.5 kilometers, or 14.5 miles, which is basically equivalent to the size and dimensions provided by Plato when converting from stadia to modern measurements. For example, the circular island of Atlantis was described as being 127 stadia. Well, one stadia is 607 feet, and 607 feet times 127 stadia is 77,089 feet. Convert that measurement, and that is 23.5 kilometers. I measured this numerous times on Google Earth, and I got anywhere from 21 kilometers to 24 kilometers. Most of my measurements were 22 kilometers in diameter, and again, this is virtually identical to Plato's and Solon's documentation. And although my own measurements through Google Earth cannot be considered exact, it is unbelievably close. So where we're at so far is that the Ricart structure matches Plato's description of having 3 circles of water and 2 of land, which is what you would see at the Ricart based off its design if there were water flowing into it. And not only that, the diameter of the outer circles matches the size described by Plato within a very small margin, if not identical. But this next detail that Plato describes is extremely interesting. He stated, and quote, "The mountains of the island of Atlantis was celebrated for their number and size and beauty," adding that the surrounding mountains of the city flowed with rivers. And and this part of the island looked toward the south and was sheltered from the north. So he is stating that the mountains were on the north side, sheltering the city to the south, which is exactly what you see at the Ricard. And the mountains are on the north side, but not only that. When you look at detailed satellite photography, you can see the evidence of multiple rivers that were spilling over the side of the mountains towards Atlantis. Can you imagine what this place looked like when it wasn't so dry? Just like Plato stated, the mountains of the island of Atlantis were celebrated for their number and size and beauty. And it's a shame that the Ricard is so remote and visited so rarely, as there are so few pictures available of the view of these mountains when standing at ground level. But I can just imagine that these mountains were lush and beautiful green with rivers and waterfalls pouring over these mountains. And the rivers were clearly there. We can see that. So it's certain that this place once looked much differently than the barren, dry desert that we see today. And this clearly matches Plato's description, and it becomes even more compelling when you consider that Plato stated that the city of Atlantis opened up to the sea at the south. Well, look at these photos, where you can see that there is an opening at the south of the Ricard structure. So if there was once water here, and if it neighbored the sea, this would further match Plato's description. I mean, doesn't this match what a waterway outlet would look like? And not only that, doesn't the entire region look like it was blasted by flowing water or a tsunami? You can see the striations in the land going from west to east from the ocean. Tell me that this doesn't look like a massive wave or a steady flow of water completely altered the terrain. And it's also worth mentioning that scientists have emphasized that the Ricard is heavily eroded, which the circular walls clearly show us. Now, consider Plato's exact words in regards to the aftermath of the cataclysm. Quote, "Atlantis is part of the Atlantic which is no longer accessible by ship. Atlantis, when sunk by the earthquake, became an impassable barrier of mud to voyagers sailing from hence to any part of the ocean. In other words, it became landlocked." Again, if this is the site of Atlantis, and if the details shared by Solon and Plato are true, and if the Ricard structure was the site of Atlantis, then it's not hard to see that perhaps a lot of sand or mud was pushed into Africa from the ocean during some sort of catastrophic event. And let's not forget the key detail that he mentioned regarding that the area surrounding Atlantis was a level plain which was smooth and even. Is this not another match when compared to the Ricard? Because here you can see multiple views and angles of it. And Plato said that Atlantis was sheltered by mountains to the north that were facing the south, and that the south part of Atlantis opened to the sea. So isn't that what we're seeing here, assuming that the ocean was once much further inland? And something else we should consider is that the sands of the Sahara actually originate from the sea. An interesting fact that many people are not aware of. And just to give you a comparison of just how massive this region is, compared to the size of the United States. Perhaps the remnants of Atlantis are now under the Sahara Desert. Now here is another geological detail that matches Plato's description. He stated, quote, "The stone which they quarried was white, another black, and a third red," going on to say that the main city was constructed with red, black, and white rocks. This region just so happens to have endless amounts of loose rock which match these colors, particularly black and red, but we also see lighter colors mixed in with them as well. And real quick, what you're looking at are a few screenshots from an outstanding documentary titled Visiting Atlantis, which was filmed in 2011 by George S. Alexander and Nathalise Rosen. And this documentary was the inspiration for my video, and I highly recommend you visit their website, visitingatlantis.com, for more details. And in fact, this video is currently only available on the Gaia Network. That documentary goes on to point out that the center island of the Ricard has fresh spring water that flows from it. And this here is a not-so-great screenshot from that documentary where the locals dug a well to prove that fresh spring water flowed from the center island of the Ricard, despite the fact that the underground water in the surrounding area is all salt water, which is interesting considering that this is 250 miles from the ocean. Perhaps further evidence that this site once met the sea. This detail about the fresh spring water coming out of the center island is significant when you compare it to what Plato said. Quote, "The god Poseidon found no difficulty in making special arrangements for the center island, bringing up two springs of water from beneath the earth, one of warm water, the other of cold. And he also specifically stated that a well near the central Acropolis provided the city with fresh water. So let's take a second to consider all the details regarding the Eye of the Sahara and Plato's description of Atlantis. First, Atlantis was said to have been destroyed 11,600 years ago, coinciding with the Younger Dryas climate catastrophe. It's a circular structure that would have been made up of 3 rings of water and 2 of land, which would be the case at the Ricard if it had water.
Let me take a little break. I'll be back. Peace.